Pep? Who is Pep?
The genius. Maybe sometimes crazy genius.
He's made the game more beautiful.
He's cracked the code for football.
Influential, right?
The best manager in the world.
He changed everything.
I think he's changed how the game is understood, how the game should be played.
We know what he expects and we know what he demands.
Football obsessed.
Obsessed of every detail.
It is about the beauty of the football.
Per mi és el millor a molta diferència.
He is looking always for the perfection.
El Pep és un sentiment.
Everybody plays like Pep's teams now. Everyone.
They see that they can win, but also because it's beautiful.
Hi ha un futbol abans de Guardiola i un futbol després de Guardiola.
Gràcies al president, el Xiqui és una il·lusió boja el fet de poder estar aquí. Jo vaig ser com a futbolista, jo començo de zero.
We played together in the 90s. And when I became sporting director in Barcelona, he told me that he wanted to be a coach and he wanted to start in the academy. Everything started there.
Were you surprised that he wanted to be a coach and that was the road?
No. It was a matter of time.
You know, when you're Barcelona B coach, the pressure is a little bit different. You know, it has nothing to do with being a first-team coach. Your main job as Barcelona B coach is how are my players progressing? But in those divisions, you also have a lot of games in which the grass is not properly cut. It's not a fun place to play. It's not like a beautiful stadium. And you also need to know how to compete and you need to know how to win. So I think that's a lecture for the players, but also for a coach, to sometimes think out of the box.
Pep Guardiola introduced things in the third division that had never been seen before. The kind of demands he was used to as professional.
Looking after the players, food, chefs, traveling, recording the games, away games.
But they weren't superstars, not in the third division. They were kids, most of them.
He was thinking like, okay, if one day I'm a first-team coach, I'm going to work like this.
Pep és una esponja, n'hem parlat mil vegades. Ell aprèn molt ràpidament de tot i de tothom. I aleshores va convertir un equip que al principi eren un grup de molt bons jugadors, però posats allà al mig sense sí amb sentit, però no massa sentit, ho va convertir ràpidament en un equip molt compacte, que jugava molt bé a futbol.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was.
El Pep va quedar campió de tercera i, a més, amb el play-off va pujar. Ell ho va fer molt bé, a la tercera divisió, no només per quedar campió i pujar, sinó de la manera que jugava i que transmetia, no?
What was interesting, of course, is that at the same time, the first team was in chaos. There was actually a friendly, the first team, against Pep Guardiola's B side.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember it, because I don't think I've run and chased the ball as much, ever. The first team players didn't take it as seriously as we should have. We had some of the best players in the history of the game. Ronaldinho, Deco, Samuel Eto'o. They won everything, but something went wrong a little bit collectively. The dressing room just wasn't in sync.
Ronaldinho plays bongos until 2 in the morning every night. Everybody sees that, everybody has cellular phones and takes pictures of him, so everybody knows we have a discipline problem.
People will walk into the changing room and shh, Ronaldinho's sleeping, and they will put the light off a little bit, because that was the kind of environment that was created.
I worked with Frank Rijkaard for 5 years, but it's true that that season we were thinking that we had to change the manager in the first team. And then we start thinking on candidates.
Remember the problems we had at the time. Ronaldinho is getting old, he's partying all the time, trying to suck Messi into his lifestyle. How do you stop it? Well, we need a sergeant, we need a general. Who is the greatest general in the world? Jose Mourinho. Pep Guardiola only coached the B team for 1 year. Jose Mourinho has won the Champions League. The solution seemed obvious. Unfortunately, Jose Mourinho doesn't fit what we call Barcelona DNA.
Barcelona realized that one way to succeed in football was to create your own players. So they gave a lot of respect to the academy called La Masia. La Masia is next to the Camp Nou, and in there they teach a way of living and a way of being. So when Pep Guardiola gets invited to stay in his early teens, he's surrounded by coaches, by players like him,
and was clearly inspired by watching the first team when he was a ball boy.
Como la hora antes del fútbol yo entrenaba balonmano, venía a ver a los jugadores de balonmano conmigo, estaba allí. La formación suya como deportista era el ver a otros jugadores, el ver otros juegos, el conocer cómo se entrenaba. Es creativo y es exploratorio. Si podía hablar un rato con Valero Rivera, que era el entrenador del balonmano entonces, hablaba un rato con él y le explicaba cómo se hacía. Y cuando tú vas a la izquierda, ellos vienen a la derecha y tú has creado el espacio para que ellos puedan entrar por el mover rápido el balón a un lado y a otro. Seguro que lo tiene metido en la cabeza del balonmano, seguro.
A lot of the young players, when they stay in La Masia, they end up looking for father figures. And I think Pep Guardiola found one or two coaches that did that for him, but certainly Johan Cruyff.
The relationship between Cruyff and Guardiola is probably one of the most important relationships in the history of the game. Johan Cruyff was a visionary as a coach. As a player, he was just the majestic embodiment of total football. It was a celebration of technique, intelligence of movement, being a chess grandmaster on the pitch, working one move ahead.
Aquest matí al camp d'entrenament de la Masia hi ha hagut dues cares noves, dos jugadors que avui han començat a entrenar-se amb el primer equip del Barça. Aquest és Josep Guardiola. Encara no s'acaba de creure que Cruyff l'hagi cridat per entrenar-se amb els professionals.
Jo el que volia era això, vull dir, és jugar amb el juvenil aquest any, acabar, intentar donar el salt al Barça Atlètic, però bé, ja passat això, doncs mira, millor per mi i seguir treballant.
When Pep Guardiola came through at Barcelona, Johan Cruyff saw this talent, but it was also challenging him. And Pep Guardiola was inspired by that.
És un espagueti, té un cervell privilegiat per interpretar el que el Johan demana. Però des de ben jove, quan jugava, Quan el Pep jugava, l'equip jugava.
Destiny brought them together, and all the necessities that my father's kind of football system had. Pep was a great fit.
La gran novetat en l'alineació de Johan Cruyff, la presència del jove Josep Guardiola en substitució del...
Everything started there, when we met and we were together in that football team.
Johan basically transmitted this mentality of being the best is playing this way. If a manager tried to convince player to do that, it has to be reinforced by winning something. I think it was backed by the 4 consecutive leagues and then the first Champions League in Wembley.
He had a different mindset, but you're considered crazy until you're a genius. And when you win titles, you create belief. The crazy guy suddenly becomes a genius.
Ciutadans de Catalunya, ja la tenim aquí! Visca Op! I visca Op!
When I became sporting director in Barcelona in 2003, I started always introducing the same philosophy. We had to be back to those times, no?
Pep era el alma de Concepción que a través de Johan se había construido en el primer equipo, ¿no?
We would never know what would have happened if Mourinho was the chosen one, but I think there was no doubt that Guardiola was the right choice.
Pep Guardiola!
No us prometem que guanyarem algun títol. Ho intentarem i persistirem. Apreteu-vos els cinturons, que ens ho passarem bé.
No. Estic molt sa, estic molt healthy. La primera va ser una trucada perquè nosaltres estàvem a l'Eurocopa. Ens juguem molt i no podem fallar i aquí hem d'estar tots i hem de remar tots en la mateixa direcció.
I el Pep, el dia que va arribar al Barça, sabia que aquella etapa de Rijkaard s'havia d'acabar. I s'havia d'acabar pel principi. I al principi era Ronaldinho. Aquest fora, aquest fora, aquest fora.
Everybody that stayed saw that he meant business.
As soon as we turned up for pre-season, we realized it was a season where we had to win something. And it felt like it almost fell apart in the first game of the season against one of the smallest teams in Spain.
Barcelona is such a special club, but also a difficult club. You have a knife on your neck every single game.
Barcelona is a very toxic place when it comes to football.
Els inicis diria que en quant a resultats no van ser bons.
They were bottom 3 after 2 games, 1 draw against Racing and a defeat against Numancia, who had just been promoted. Already some decisions had been made, like having Pedro and Busquets in the lineup. They just were kids that had just arrived from the V-side, but were very important for what he was trying to do. Every defeat and every draw would be used by the media to say he wasn't experienced, he should have been Jose Mourinho.
And everyone tries to kill you because the decision you have made.
In the middle of all that, Johan Cruyff wrote a very famous article in which he said, "This is the best Barcelona in a long time."
That was my father. He would have these kind of protective reactions, but also because he believed in Pep, 100%.
Me personally, I was so convinced because what the players say. The players, they were absolutely excited.
Sí, jo crec que es va trobar un entrenador molt bo, revolucionari. Jo crec que mirava molt els petits detalls.
How can you dominate possession? If you can keep the ball, the opposition doesn't score.
Del Pep hi ha 3 coses fonamentals, que és bona sortida de pilota des de darrere, moure molt els rivals per trobar allà on hi ha els espais per atacar millor, i la pressió alta. Intentar recuperar-la el més ràpidament possible per tenir-la. Vol tenir la pilota al millor temps possible. Un símil de l'handbol, no? Moure una mica els jugadors per trobar el moment just d'atacar.
He wanted our fullbacks so high up the pitch that we would force the opposition to sit back. Risky if you lose the ball, but we had Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta, and Messi. I don't think the opposition believes they can win the ball off those 4. We found the formula.
To fly.
For me, it was one of my first experiences as a broadcast journalist.
Bona tarda, tot a punt perquè a l'estadi del Camp
And it was fun. They played this beautiful football, everything was new, fresh. It was a beautiful story to tell. Guardiola, that kid from La Masia, that he was becoming a great manager. Lionel Messi, the story of Andrés Iniesta, the return of Piqué. Puyol, the spirit. Brave football, attacking football, dominating the game, the possession. He made it something so much fun to watch. Even though you know what kind of football you were about to watch, it was unpredictable.
May the 2nd, 2009 is when Barcelona played Real Madrid in his first year.
Barcelona had to go to Madrid. If they got a result, they probably would wrap up the league.
Recuerdo las primeras parables a principio de semana del Pep que si vamos al Bernabéu con la intención de que el empate nos vale, vamos a perder. Entonces vamos a ir allí a ganar.
Pep em diu si em puc esperar, que vindrà el Leo, que li vol comentar una sèrie de coses, a veure si ell s'ho sent pel Bernabéu, no?
Pep was watching Real Madrid games and he realized that when the midfielders put pressure on the midfielders of the other team, the defenders stayed behind, therefore opening up a space of about 30 meters. And he thought, wow, we have this little kid called Messi. What if we switch and put Messi not on the center forward, but in the midfield with the 30 meters to run?
Al Leo li va encantar. Jo, a dins meu, i t'he de ser molt clar, i pensava, hosti, això per què no ho fa un altre dia? Però el Pep tenia un convenciment total.
That day, I think, changed the history of football, the history of FC Barcelona, and the history of Messi.
They destroyed Real Madrid in the style that Pep Guardiola wanted. It was a 6-2 historic scoreline.
From that moment on, he was one of the greatest teams ever to play.
You're considered crazy until you're a genius. And when you win titles, you create belief. The crazy guy suddenly becomes a genius.
The world came to a realization of this is how the game should be played.
That team was unbelievable. They were playing the best football of the world. And it was in the first season.
They won absolutely everything. 6 trophies. Nobody had ever done that before.
And it all started when he made that innovation. Messi in midfield, false 9.
I remember that Inter Milan game against Barcelona in 2010, and that was Jose Mourinho, the arch pragmatist, taking on this purist, this poet, this high priest of the beautiful game, and just destroying him.
Jose Mourinho revenged that rejection he had felt by not being chosen ahead of Pep Guardiola as the manager of Barcelona. Inter Milan won the Champions League that year by beating Barcelona. Jose Mourinho became a Real Madrid hero. Real Madrid at that point did not know how to beat Pep Guardiola.
And then suddenly Real Madrid realized that to compete with Barcelona, they needed to get Jose Mourinho in, the man who was adept at spoiling other people's parties.
When Pep was a player, Jose Mourinho was the assistant manager of first Bobby Robson and then with Van Gaal. They were beyond professionals in the same team. There was a friendship there.
Després, quan Mourinho és entrenador del Madrid, Mourinho busca una manera de guanyar una mica complicada per la manera d'entendre el futbol de Pep.
I mean, as a journalist, the Pep Jose narrative was extraordinary. These two opposites. Darkness against light, that's how it was often pitched.
So there's always rivalry, Barca-Madrid. But of course, with Mourinho, clashes get magnified because he's not a real gentleman, right? He doesn't act the Barcelona way in the field.
They were the two best teams in the world battling for the same trophies.
Pep, Mourinho, la rivalitat Messi-Cristiano. Després els dos equips.
And in the semi-finals of the Champions League, you couldn't have written a better script. Jose Mourinho's Real Madrid against Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. Jose Mourinho knew that to beat Barcelona, he had to go after Pep.
Que es la era de un tercer grupo, que es el grupo que en este momento solo tiene una persona, que es él, que es criticar el acierto del árbitro. Esto yo nunca había visto, el mundo del fútbol nunca había visto.
He complains the day before the game, he tries to manipulate the referee and the press, and of course Pep sees through that and says, okay.
No sé cuál es la cámara del señor José, deben ser todas estas.
Pues està tots escoltant.
Mañana a las 8:45 nos enfrentamos aquí en el campo, fuera del campo, y ha ganado. Le regalo su Champions particular fuera del campo.
Que Mourinho lo convierte en algo personal y Pep no quiere entrar en eso. Y entonces cuando le dice, esto para ti, esto es tuyo.
En esta sala, él es el jefe, el amo, es el que más sabe del mundo. Yo no quiero ni competir ni un instante.
I esto va a ser el Barça-Madrid. I això és per tu. Això a la sala de premsa és teu.
Tots ficar-nos a aplaudir i ovacionar-lo per com ens havia defensat.
Let's meet in the field.
On the pitch, he tried to suffocate Barcelona.
Si ell ho dona, és normal que s'ho trobi.
Being part of that, I think it must have been exhausting and ugly for Pep.
El Pep és igual de bon tio. Jo crec que tindria que ser més fill de
La segona, jo fa temps que no recordo una final que un equip sigui tan superior, sobretot amb l'estil... Allà suposo que es va reflexar al 100% l'estil Pep.
Sometimes finals are not very beautiful football because there's so much pressure. And they won those two Champions League final against Man United, dominating, trashing them with beautiful football, with amazing goals.
Van fer córrer el Manchester United per tot el camp. Va reflexar tota la idea Pep i el que ell va transmetre arreu del món.
Jo crec que serà etern aquell equip, no sol pel que va guanyar, sinó per com ho va guanyar.
When you see something beautiful, something inside you sparkles. Ferguson said that.
It's the best team we've faced, and no one's given us a hiding like that. So they deserve it because they play the right way.
Even him losing the final, he said, wow.
Have you started looking for another job because you have no challenges?
I have to look for it myself, inside of me. Now I have intention to continue one more year, and after we are going to see.
The team perhaps had reached its potential.
Entrenar al Barça no és fàcil, hi ha molta pressió, van ser anys molt intensos.
Cuando ganamos las 6 copas, dijo, Paco, tengo que buscar otro sitio, tengo que hacer otras cosas, a ver qué puedo hacer.
necessita tenir aquella vida, aquella passió, aquella energia tan necessària per contagiar tantíssimes coses, sobretot els teus jugadors, perquè puguin cada partit demostrar que tenen la capacitat per seguir gaudint, disfrutant.
A mi em va tocar molt.
I don't fully believe this idea that he needed to run away from Real Madrid and from the conflict that Jose created. But what I did see at the time very closely was somebody that had to take pills to sleep, leadership at the top, the chairman had changed.
Vaig dir amb ell que es tenia que quedar i que l'equip volia que es quedés. Jo com a capità li vaig transmetre, però ell ja tenia presa la decisió.
Ell va dir, me'n vaig, deixeu-me en pau.
Every manager has his own escape. And my escape, when it happened, I am exhausted, immediately home. Home. Wife, kids. If I close the door, always I am safe. I think after Barcelona, I went to New York, especially for my family. In the States, I thought we'll be far away from football. Be free, and I can do the silly and stupid things there. Don't be judged.
In New York, he was almost the kid in San Pedro.
I think it's impossible to live more happy a boy like I live. You know, little town, every day in the street. Football, basketball, tennis. Until mom said, okay, time to have dinner, and come back home. The life sometimes is short, sometimes is long. But if you wake up every morning and you're going to do something you love, that is enough.
In New York, his mind was free to wander places that are not football.
He just wanted to fill his head with more knowledge.
Unfortunately, it didn't last very long. His priority became to learn German.
Wann Bayern München ruf dir? Dich. So ist eine Riesenehre für mich und deshalb bin ich hier.
Die Lederhose, die saß auch ganz gut bei ihm und für ihn, das muss man sagen, weil er vielleicht das auch so ein bisschen unterschätzt hat, weil es auf dem Oktoberfest teilweise auch Starkbiere gibt.
Pep's misfortune, in a way, was going into a club that had just won the Champions League.
Kommen mit einem großen Erfolg, den besten und größten, den der Verein jemals gehabt hat. Das musste er und wollte er natürlich auch wieder so erfolgreich gestalten wie zuvor. Und das war keine leichte Aufgabe.
We heard a lot of players saying, we don't quite understand what he's trying to do and it's too much.
Teilweise hat er dann auch Übungseinheiten abgebrochen, hat uns reingeschickt. Da hat er auch keinen Bock drauf gehabt, dann ist er beleidigt gewesen und hat gesagt, wenn ihr es nicht lernen wollt, dann lernen wir es halt nicht.
It's like in the school. Now all students are listening everything that the coach says.
I remember Joshua Kimmich telling a colleague of mine that he came off every training session with a massive headache because of the amount of things he needed to think about.
So hat er uns aber auch eigentlich erzogen und ihm war die kleinste Kleinigkeit halt extrem wichtig, damit wir es auf dem Platz umsetzen können und lernen.
They had a bad start. They lost heavily against Dortmund in the Super Cup where the counter-attacks just went bang, bang, bang and Bayern had no defense.
I allà ens vam donar compte que el futbol alemany era totalment diferent del que havíem viscut aquí. Jo recordo Pep que un dia va dir aquí la clau és aturar les contres. Si aturem les contres podem fer coses, si no patirem tot. tot l'any, tot i que pots anar guanyant, no?
Ich glaube, dass es oft so gewesen ist, dass viele Mannschaften sich hinten reingestellt haben. Und es war eher so, dass man 2 Busse hinten geparkt hat und wir haben so ein bisschen drumherum gespielt und versucht, einfach Lösungen zu finden. Seine Philosophie war einfach so gut, dass wir gemerkt haben, wenn wir sie umsetzen, dann gibt es eine 90-prozentige Chance, dass wir den Gegner schlagen und hier als Sieger vom Platz gehen.
I remember exactly the conversation with him, and he told me, I cannot help you when you are in the box, when you got the ball, because you know better than me. But I can help you how bring the ball to the box. And that was for me, the genius.
By September, October, this Bayern team were playing a football that hadn't really been seen before.
Ell es reinventava, jugàvem amb 5 davanters i va ser un festival.
They were completely untouchable, and they only started losing games when they had won the title. That's when they eased off with a view of protecting players for the Champions League. The 2014 semi-final is a very pivotal moment in the Pep reign at Bayern. They go to Madrid and they dominate. They dominate in a way that no Bayern team probably ever has at the Bernabeu, but they don't score and they concede a goal. So they lose 1-0. And as they prepare for the second game, Guardiola second-guesses himself and is not sure whether his idea of total control, whether the players respond to it. And he decides to ask some of the players, and the players say, we want to really go for it.
Kennt ja auch Real Madrid, aber wollte mit uns einfach darüber sprechen, wollte uns ins Boot holen und geht von der Philosophie, die wir das ganze Jahr über gespielt haben, so ein bisschen weg. Aber am Ende haben wir gemerkt, das hätte er nicht machen dürfen. Für ihn persönlich war es brutal hart, weil er sich das so gewünscht hat, natürlich auch mit seinem Fußball, den er auch in Barcelona gespielt hat, hier in der Bundesliga nicht nur und im Cup-Wettbewerb, also im DFB-Pokal. Da hat er nicht ganz so auf sich gehört, sondern hat uns zu viel gefragt, glaube ich.
I think that day, Pep learned, if I lose, I am gonna lose because I make a decision, and sometimes I'm gonna be wrong.
I think he was very upset when grandees of the club came out and spoke about the way that Bayern should have done this and should have done that. It's normal for Munich, but I think he took it personally. And then sporting director Matthias Sammer next to him on the bench, and after the game talking about how the team had played and what he didn't like and so on. That was the first time when we heard rumors that maybe it's not really the perfect place.
Pep és un home molt fidel i necessita gent molt fidel. Aquesta fidelitat és un roble, es fa forta. Però es fa forta perquè és recíproca.
In 2012, Manchester City hired Chiqui Begiristain and Ferran Soriano, the 2 executives he'd worked with at Barcelona, people that he trusted.
When I finished in Barcelona, 2010, I wanted to come to the Premier League. So, of course, I was thinking that maybe one day we could work together, no?
Bayern München have won the title.
When I had to sign a player who was playing in the Bundesliga, I was always talking to him. And then I was then telling him how amazing was the life here for us. So it was a little bit tricky.
Some massive breaking news in the last half an hour. The Bayern Munich manager Pep Guardiola is going to become Manchester City's new head coach at the end of the season.
There's been months of speculation about this.
Not too many managers get appointed 5 months in advance, but then not too many managers are like Pep Guardiola.
That last year, the spectre of Guardiola leaving was hanging over the whole season.
Pep Guardiola will go to Manchester City, having failed to win the Champions League at Bayern Munich.
I first met Pep when he was getting off a plane at Manchester Airport. You know, he just looked so much like a sort of Spanish tourist, if you like. He was just in really relaxed clothes. I was asked by a Spanish agent to find a Premier League football club where he would go on trial. He was 34 and he was very serious about getting a contract in the Premier League. When we first arrived at the club, we walked down a corridor and Andy Cole came out of the dressing room and he sort of did that, you know, sort of hero worship. And then we went to see the home game against West Bromwich Albion. Not a great advert for the Premier League.
And then he ended up in Mexico. That's how we were at the time. El Senor, the man. Welcome to Manchester.
The City in 2005 was such a different club to the one he joined as head coach in 2016.
City's a club on the up, and this is proof. You know, he's the biggest football manager in the world.
It's a new Fergie, you know?
We felt elevated, you felt taller.
We hope that you're going to get addicted to the place and the weather, right, and that you're going to stay forever. There was this thing where he wanted to be in the city and just experience it and feel it. And I was like, well, people are going to love you. They're going to love you.
Such is the status of Pep Guardiola that City's tag of title favourites is hung on his presence.
Lots of people saying, look at the side that he had at Barcelona. He walked into the treble winners at Bayern Munich. This is a test for him.
He's had all his own way in Spain and in Germany.
He can't just walk into the Premier League and expect to take it by storm. This is a different kettle of fish.
People say you will not be able to do that in England.
10 wins in 10, the perfect start.
So, okay, let's do it. I'm going to try.
Do you want the mics up or down, guys?
Yeah, that was a tough season.
Pep, busy day, huh? Busy day? Yeah.
It's 5 games without a win for Manchester City. What's happening?
That was a very tough season. We lived in Manchester at the time, and we talked to him very often, and he was a drama.
So here we are, 5 months into your job at Manchester City. How would you describe your experiences so far?
Good time.
You know, for the first time ever in his career, things were not working.
They're a shambles. He's missing the point. He doesn't get it.
I'd rather watch Liverpool attack than Man City.
He can be as arrogant as he likes in terms of we'll play from the back, but Brian Clough would have turned in his grave.
How much defending really did Barcelona have to do?
You know, he's being found out completely.
So he's going to fail. He's going to fail.
When the results are not going well, do you ever think, maybe I should change a little?
You would like that, huh? No, I'm not going to change. Do you know why as well? Because in 7 years I won 21 titles. I'm sorry, guy. I won 21 titles in 7 years. So it's 3 titles per year, playing that way.
The entire Premier League has gone, in his face. So it's not going to work, this total football nonsense. It's not going to work.
We don't play with little boys. Xavis and Iniestas are not going to work here because we're just going to, kick them out of the field.
The first season probably is always the most difficult one, isn't it? I mean, you come to a new league, you play against teams that you have never faced before, new culture, maybe not 100% the team that you want, the players that you want.
You became crazy, the feeling of maybe I can't, he's blaming himself.
You want to defend what you are looking for, what you believe, to make a step forward. People say, no, I don't have fear, it doesn't matter if you lose. No, everybody has fears, you know?
Who is the most influential person in your development?
Johan Cruyff by far. He helped me to love that game.
Johan Cruyff has died at the age of 68 from lung cancer. The Dutch FA says he was the country's greatest footballer and one of the best in the world.
When Pep is in a difficult moment or when you have doubts about a decision, you look up a bit and you close your eyes a few seconds and say, what would Johan do?
All the managers have doubts. In that moment, you think you are not able to be coach anymore. You have doubts about your decisions, you have doubts about the players. In that moment, I don't know why he comes. He comes and remember me, you have to do what do you believe. No, I'm not going to change.
So at the end of the first season, we just managed to get into the top 4. You're thinking, well, the pressure's on this guy here. And I'm on the phone to him and he said, don't worry, it's going to be different next season. And I was like, right. And he said, we're going to win next season. We're going to win the league.
This season coming up, you need a trophy, don't you? Yeah?
Yeah, people say that, yeah.
He knew, he knew.
We just started the season with a bang.
One of the great seasons in Premier League history. It's unbelievable, some of it.
It's total football. He's brought a brand of football to the Premier League that we've never seen before. It's been sparkling.
I mean, a lot of people say you cannot do this in England. With this place, you cannot do it. Keep doing it.
He's proved everybody wrong.
I was so happy.
And look what happened.
It's going to change the country again.
A record 100 points!
The feeling was just incredible because of how big the achievement was.
And he built an empire.
Manchester City become champions for the 4th time in 5 seasons. That is the ultimate mark of how good a team actually is.
No, Pep no guanyarà a Anglaterra. Va guanyar.
It worked, it dominated, and England changed.
Pep Guardiola has central beliefs: the power of possession, teamwork, intelligence of movement. But he does change, and this is why all opposing managers have such difficulty trying to keep up with Pep Guardiola, because he keeps rewriting the script.
A vegades tu tens una idea molt clara com vols jugar, però te trobes a cada equip jugadors diferents i també t'has d'adaptar una mica a les seves qualitats, no? I és el que el Pep fa que sigui tan bo, no? I que sigui innovador.
For each game, he always tweaks something where someone will move in a different position and it makes a massive difference.
In the Premier League, he changed the way everybody plays. Everybody's looking for a keeper who's almost like a centre-half.
He's played with a false 9. He's played with a right-back stepping into midfield. He's played with inverted wingers.
It's just sometimes to put the puzzle together, to get the perfect outcome.
Manchester City dominated domestically, but there definitely was this sense that the Champions League was the thing that Pep really wanted.
There was this thing like, oh, he won the Champions League because of Messi.
Manchester City are out of the Champions League, head in hands for Guardiola.
It's the only point that you can attack Pep. And the Champions League was like, okay, yeah, Premier League. So the Premier League became like something easy. And suddenly it was, he's not winning the Champions League, the Champions League.
It was clearly the Champions League that he was going to be judged by. And I think that is right, because Abu Dhabi was forking out fortunes to him, to player recruitment, to the facilities. They are doing that pretty much because they wanted the Champions League. Champions League's absolutely huge.
We can give you the Manchester City team, and it's interesting. We've been debating about whether it would be Fernandinho, whether it would be Rodri, whether it would be both of them. In fact, neither of them are in the team. They're both on the bench.
No, he didn't play. When we trained 2 or 3 days before the final, he already decided the team.
Kai Havertz goes through and scores, and City's hearts are broken again.
It just really felt like the Champions League was out of our grasp.
I wanted to disappear in that moment. I remember silence in the locker room, silence everywhere.
To not play Rodri in the Champions League final is something that I'll never understand.
Was that an error from Pep Guardiola this evening?
I don't know why Pep, when it gets to the big major finals, it always confuses it.
He's got to go. I think he's made this final about him.
How many Champions Leagues has he won without Messi?
Take your head out of your backside and pick your best team to win that game.
I think you'd have to be a brave person to tell him to his face that he's an overthinker.
He was always like that, so I don't think it was something that he was specially doing for Champions League or the big games or whatever.
Quan es guanya la Lliga de 100 punts a la Premier o el dia del Madrid del 6-2 famós, segurament també sobrepensava, no?
I think there was a little bit of delight amongst his critics. You know, you haven't won the Champions League. This is the trophy that has defined you as a player and as a coach at Barcelona. You've spent £1 billion. You've now got to do it. You haven't done it yet.
He knows how important it is for everyone, also for himself. But we were together. We have to help him just to do the same things.
To be success, you first have to fail.
The way we performed in that game, that was a turning point for us.
We seemed to hit form just at the right time. We were on the verge of doing something special here. Everyone kept on saying the treble, the treble, the treble. It's possible, of course it's possible, but not many teams have done it.
FA Cup final and Champions League final. 2 games, 2 titles. As simple as that.
Manchester City have done the double. 1 to go.
If we didn't win the FA Cup, you've got the other side of the city saying we're still the only team to win the treble in England. Obviously the pressure then mounts on him because, okay, Man City are in another Champions League final, they need to win it.
It was crazy because it's to win the treble, to be part of history again, no?
It was like the last step. It's very special for me, to be honest.
A moment I'll never forget.
It's the relief.
I think for Pep, it was something very special.
We are so happy for him.
He almost had tears in his eyes and he looked at his family, at the players. I don't know, I think he was in the sky, like enjoying that. He was just happy.
He loves that trophy. It is the defining moment for a great coach.
I'm good manager, honestly. Thank you so much, Pep. I'm good. But people expect I have to win trebles every season. I like this competition for the fact that we won it. We'll be remembered for the rest of the life. But now, give credit that the five Premier Leagues we won in the last 6 years together. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. It's not just the Champions League, it's many, many, many titles behind the Champions League.
I'm quite sure there's a lot of people saying, yeah, he did in Barcelona with Messi. To finally also win the Champions League with City, I think took that last bit that he probably still needed to prove himself.
It was a statement that his philosophy worked.
You know, what he started at Barcelona and has brought to City, it's bigger than the Champions League and all that. His legacy has been played out in every football pitch in England every Sunday morning.
He has revolutionized football.
Everyone wants to be like Pep.
Mikel Arteta, Vincent Kompany, Roberto De Zerbi, Marco Silva, Ten Hag.
My son is 6 and he wants to be a goalkeeper, and we're teaching him that he needs to be able to use his feet as well as his hands, and that comes from Pep Guardiola.
Això et parla de sembrar.
el llegat que ha deixat el Pep, que tothom el vol copiar.
Bueno, como casi un hijo tuyo es capaz de hacer esas cosas, ¿no?
There's still something innocent inside, you know? And that's lovely after so many years.
He changed the game of football. That makes him special.